Hey, what's up? I'm Technologics, and today we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 5. Is it still worth buying in 2017? So first off, I actually meant to get this video out a few weeks ago, but I had some troubles getting my hands on the iPhone 5. The one in the video is my friend's, and I apologize for the shakiness and lower quality video as I didn't have a nicer camera or tripod when I was able to film it. Without further ado, let's get right into this. The iPhone 5 was released in late 2012 and is the last iPhone ever to run iOS 6. iOS 6, of course, being the iconic look that we all knew and loved before they moved on to iOS 7 with a more flatter look. The iPhone 5 is in an all-aluminum enclosure, as this was the year Apple moved on from the glass back of the iPhone 4 and 4S. While I do personally prefer the look on the iPhone 4, at the time it was a good idea and the design is certainly still beautiful. It's the same look as the 5S and the SE, with the main exterior difference being the lack of Touch ID on the front. It's very sleek and looks really classy. It comes in the colors space gray or silver, which both look very nice in my opinion, but it's kind of limited for color options there. I think I prefer of the two colors the space gray, but that is just my personal preference, of course. You can see the phone I have here is actually pretty broken up near the camera area. I'm not actually sure why. It was probably dropped on the pavement, I'm not actually sure, but the camera still works fine. The screen is 4 inches, bigger than the 3.5-inch iPhone 4 and 4S. If you want a big screen, then you're going to have to dish out for the iPhone 6 or better. But if you don't mind or even would prefer the smaller screen, then there is no worry. The screen, although it is a little bit small for some, is still pretty nice. It does have a somewhat low resolution of 640 by 1136, which is technically under 720p, but the pixel density makes up for it being 326 pixels per inch, meaning this of course does carry Apple's famous Retina display, ensuring all on the screen will be clean and crisp and you won't be able to see the pixels. For nearly everyone, this screen will be great, so no worries there. While it won't look as good as some Quad HD Android phone, for the average user, it's going to be fine. When it comes to camera, the iPhone 5 has a solid 8 megapixels and can film at 1080p at 30 frames per second. While the camera isn't mind-blowing by any means, it's not bad, and for the average consumer, it'll be fine. I'd say the camera is mediocre, not high-end by any means, but not low-end either, so unless you really care about how good the pictures look, then the camera should do the job. The battery in the iPhone 5 is okay and should last you through the day. It's 1,440 milliamps, which isn't bad. If you're going to be charging it overnight, you should get through the day no problem, unless of course you're using it a lot. Of course, all iPhones are going to differ. This phone is over 4 years old, which means you really never know what you're going to get, especially if you're buying used. The more used a phone is, typically the worse the battery performance is going to be, so I would think you should be able to get a day out of it, and yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The iPhone carries the Apple A6 processor and 1 GB of RAM. Most things seem to run fine on the phone, with not too much slowdown. You might get a little bit of lag when you're just switching pages occasionally, which is an annoyance, but not a huge deal. However, this is kind of a sign of what's going to be happening more and more as technology moves on, so while it's not too bad right now, in about a year probably, you'll definitely start to feel the age. I'll get back to the performance in just a little bit here, but let's talk about the operating system. It runs the current iOS 10, but I would say that it's pretty unlikely it'll run iOS 11. The iPhone 4S was cut off last year and is only a generation behind. While it's possible it could get the update, it probably won't happen, and honestly you shouldn't expect it to. We won't really know until Apple announces iOS 11, but for now we can expect the worst and hope for the best. If there is an update, there will probably be even more lag and slowdown that comes with it, so that's a factor to keep in mind here too. Just because it can run iOS 11 doesn't mean that it should, and not that that matters, because it probably won't. The iPhone 5 is a legitimate phone right now in early 2017, but will it stay that way? No, it won't. The iPhone 4S is only a generation behind, and it is a pretty slow device by today's standards. And a lot of people would argue the iPhone 5 also is a slow device by today's standards. I personally think it's fine, and you know what, I think most people on average are going to say the same thing, that they don't need a super speedy phone, but there's no denying it's only getting slower. Apps and games, for the most part, currently run pretty well. You might find some frustration with 3D games or a whole bunch of tabs open in Safari, but for the most part it should should be okay. So is the iPhone 5 actually worth buying? Well, you can find it on eBay.com for about $100, which is a pretty good price point. But before we make a decision, let's take a look at its main competition, the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S was released a year later, holds a better processor, and will definitely run iOS 11. I mean, it's technically unconfirmed, but it would be extremely random and out of character if Apple didn't support it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So it's safe to say it will definitely run iOS 11. And you know what? It only costs $50 more. That's not too much, and it's going to have at least another year of support, even if the 5 does get iOS 11. It's going to be faster and have a Touch ID, two pretty big factors there, at least to me. Review of the iPhone 5S in the description below, by the way, if you want to see that. So is the iPhone 5 worth buying in 2017? I don't think so, simply because the iPhone 5S is better and not much more money. It was a great phone when released and still isn't too bad today, but in the long run, getting the 5S or even the SE will probably be the right decision. To summarize quickly, the iPhone 5 performs fairly well right now, but will be slowing down in the near future. The battery is decent, the camera is okay, the screen is pretty nice, and the design is really nice. I wouldn't recommend buying the iPhone 5, but if you do, or if you have it, you'll know it's still a fairly good phone, and it's a pretty good budget option. That's all I got. If this helped you at all, or you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Comment your thoughts down below. Do you have an iPhone 5? Are you considering getting one? What do you actually think about the phone? Thank you so much for watching. Interestingly, this whole thing was actually filmed on my iPhone 6 because I didn't have, as I said earlier, I didn't have a nicer camera with me, so I'm actually surprised. It doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look great, but not too bad. But anyways, thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you all next time.